Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Adam Robin. I'm here with a new friend, David Straight with E-Rehab. What's up, David? How are you?
I'm good, Adam. How you doing?
I'm doing really good, man. I really appreciate you being on the call today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
So, I, I've worked with a few different digital marketing agencies and have jumped into that world and needed some help with my website and whatnot. Here recently, as our company has grown, I decided to seek out a new relationship to get a little help with our website, some email campaigns, some foundational support with like reputation management, SEO, those types of things. And I kept on hearing E-Rehab, 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 right? So we have a few members, coaching clients in our group who are using your service with
Great.
E-Rehab. So I thought it would be fantastic to bring you on today, learn your story, and learn a little bit about what you do with E-Rehab.
Sure. So, and thank you for that. Gosh, started treating patients in the 90s and really enjoyed the communication aspect of it. And I also noticed that a lot of people didn't know much about physical therapy. Um, and so I always had an affinity for digital tools and gosh, built my first website for the practice back in 1996. And
What'd you build it on?
I think the first website I built on was Dreamweaver. Yeah. And then maybe Microsoft Front Page. Um,
Really
and
cool.
then started to learn the code itself. But my big challenge was when I was owning a private practice, we lost half of our business to physician-owned clinics. And so 48% of our business gone within 3 months, two big orthopedic groups that brought it in-house. And so I had to get really good at sales and marketing. And part of it was the digital side of things. So I started running online ads when it was a service called GoTo, and GoTo got bought by Overture and then Yahoo. And then of course, Google ads became popular, but um, building websites and then I ran, I ran an email newsletter through Microsoft Business, a service they had. And then I just realized a lot of my clients didn't have these tools either. So I found a great partner, John Mason, started E-Rehab in 2003 and started off with email newsletters and websites. And then we added things like SEO, and then mobile became popular, and we started running paid ads in 2007, and then social became popular as well, and reputation, and then we've always liked video, so a little bit of video, and we've been doing it ever since for over 2,000 clients, and just really helping people get the foundational elements online and use good leverage too. I always like to say we want to do the $10 an hour job so you can do the $100 an hour job,
Mhm.
and that way your time is best served doing things that are important. But at the same time, if you do it yourself, practice owners tend to just go with whatever's cheap because they don't know all the important nuances of things, and then they don't touch it at all. Uh, so we just wanted to be somewhere in the middle where we could provide a managed service for people, keep their website fresh, up to date, redesign it for them when they need it, help them make sure they're ranking well, um, and reputation, and keeping their brand in front of their past patients as well. So that's what we do.
That's awesome. And you mentioned you still own a practice, is that right?
I don't own the practice anymore.
Okay.
I sold it in 2005, but it's a funny story between Paul Gaspar and I. We're better friends now than we were then, but I still am part of his marketing team, support him and Jason in the practice as well. So I'm still in the practice, interface with the clinicians, ownership, understand what's going on with the day to day and the big challenges. I mean, the two big challenges, which everyone knows, it's staffing and payment, and
Right.
that's where I think we're positioned really well, as we understand that, the average margin for a practice nowadays is somewhere around 10% nationally. So they have to spend their money very efficiently. And that's where we come into play, is that we really provide an efficient and affordable suite of tools, the low hanging fruit, as I call it, to get people started. And then once that is in place, we built kind of what we say, once we built a great mousetrap and we've helped them differentiate themselves in their community, and we should have some good strategies for differentiation. But then if they want to venture onwards to the 4-figure a month types of strategies, and that's like lead generation and, social media marketing and things of that nature, well, they can have at it, but they know that they're going to get everything right with us foundationally before they dive into some of those other things. And a lot of people don't. A lot of practices nowadays, they've tried the 4 and 5-figure a month types of marketing, and they haven't had great success with it, especially when they look at the financials, which I know you can help people understand quite well. So we tell them that marketing is not just online digital marketing, it's offline marketing and
Amen.
sales to the community. And we are still big fans and huge fans of reaching out to referring physicians where the opportunities do exist, and helping maximize referrals, as well, providing solutions for the physicians in the community. And that's been one of our best initiatives that we still put at the top of our list. It's not so much marketing, it's sales, face to face, belly to belly. So we like to make sure that they understand the component of that and provide a lot of training and content around that as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love a few things that you said there. Number one, you mentioned, we do the $10 an hour job so that the owners can do the $100 an hour job, right?
Yeah, it's good leverage. I mean, the problem with a lot of small business owners is they spend so much time treating and then doing things that it just takes up their time, where they could outsource those things, and then they could spend their time on more valuable activities. I think I've got hundreds of people that still treat, but they just have to be more efficient. And that comes down to a skill set that we didn't learn at all, and that's learning how to manage people. And for us, it's not so hard to manage people, as long as you provide them with systems and processes, as well as you take an interest in making sure that they're, not just doing a good job for you, but they're enjoying their work and committed to, being on the bus, so to speak. So.
Yeah. And I do work with practice owners who are on different stages of the business, but what comes to mind right now for me is the really small owner. It's the small owner who's like maybe a solo practitioner, maybe a front desk, maybe an assistant, and they're kind of wearing a bunch of hats in the clinic, and they want to start ramping up their marketing, right? So like people come to me in that stage of business and they say, I really need to get more referrals in the door. And I'm like, great, let's start building relationships. And they immediately say, yeah, well, I'm thinking about starting a blog. Right. So now they're gonna write their own blog, right? And we're gonna start posting to social media every day and writing all the content on there. And we're gonna start shooting videos, and all great things, right?
They all have a little bit of value, I think, but I always like to say that healthcare is hyper local, 5 to 10 mile radius around your practice. And
Yes.
you got to get out of your practice. And certainly many of the practices that I know, they're just known in their community because they give back to the schools, or they are senior centers, or they belong to Rotaries. They have relationships with other businesses in the community. There's an awareness of their existence, not through somebody reading a blog post, or not about, a social post. And we could talk about why those aren't top priorities at all. But they're outside of their office. And again, that comes down to, sure, managing your time wisely. But also, thinking about marketing more in a broad sense, like a professional marketing strategy and plan would be. That's not just, hey, I do digital stuff and that's all I do, because that's limiting in our experience. So
Yes. And here's the thing, like, you can write your own blog.
You can.
You
That's
can
right.
write your own blog. You can write your own blog every week.
Yeah.
But it's really like, how many weeks in a row can you write a blog well and still have the energy to, like you said, like hire people, hold people accountable, manage your statistics, write
Yeah.
policy and procedure,
Right.
like it's draining, right?
It's
Whenever
a
you're not,
distraction is what it is. If you
it's a
look at
huge distraction.
what we found with blogs or, creating that kind of content is, so what you would ideally do it for is it's something that has some scalability to it. You could write a blog post. You would hope that if you wrote it, you could get it to rank on Google for a local search. And then you could take that blog post and you could publish it to social media. But since organic reach or amount of people that see your post is pretty much dead, you would have to pay to get that post out into the community in front of eyeballs. People, and it truly is like the old days, the offline methods, like putting it in a newspaper. You hope somebody sees it because it's going to be on the 77th page, and you hope somebody has a problem that might have a need. And so, just like with any type of outbound marketing, the percentage of people that might actually have any interest in it is small single digits. And then as far as ranking, Google's pretty upfront saying there really isn't any content that we haven't seen published already.
Mm-hmm.
So ranking content, especially for things that are just not, they're information types of searches. So you wanted to rank for back pain treatment in Biloxi, right? Or neck pain treatment in Encinitas. Um, you might be able to rank it, but the number of searches are extremely rare. And the chance that somebody's going to be in your area that you serve and reads that blog post is even rarer. And then the chance that somebody's actually going to come in and become a patient and go through a plan of care is even
Is
more
even
rare.
rarer.
So I don't think that kind of strategy makes a lot of sense for practices at a foundational level, especially if you're in the situation that you talked about, a one or two PT shop, and you're looking to get to capacity first, and then thinking about how do I scale and hire another therapist. It's not going to be through writing blog posts or using social. So
Right.
that's
Right.
our experience, and uh, we got all the data to prove it. That's the good thing about doing this for 21 years. We have 1,500 locations in the data across the United States about what pages people are going to, what search phrases people are using, where those people are located when they're doing the searches. So when it comes to SEO, we're very consistent saying we want to make sure, and this is contrarian to what a lot of other gurus like to say, but we want to do our best to rank for 4 transactional searches. And when I say transactional, these are people that are looking to buy. And it's physical therapy near me, physical therapy in your city, and then by far the most important search, because the Web PT survey in July 2022 of consumers and the 2023 survey, APTA survey of consumers, says that 64 to 85% of consumers are referred. So what's the most important search to show up for? It's your business name, of course, because when somebody's referred to you, they're going to be referred to your business name. And that's really quite easy to do unless you have just some generic name. If your name is physical therapy service, well, that's not very unique.
Right.
That's just a common phrase, but almost everybody, Adam Robin Physical Therapy, right? Southern Physical Therapy Services. That's a unique enough name that you're going to show up, and it doesn't really take anything but a SEO friendly website to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of our search strategy in a nutshell. And again, those things are far more affordable than if you were to hire an expensive SEO company, which, by the way, just the SEO itself is going to be, if it's automated, about $800, $900 a month. If you have somebody that really knows SEO, you're looking at $2,000 to $3,000 a month. Really hard to get return on investment for those kinds of dollars, because they're also asking for, give me a year commitment on that. They have to, because Google isn't going to rank something that gets a lot of visitors and a lot of searches next week or next month or even in a few months. It's going to take several months of consistency to build up that trust in the search Google search algorithm.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's why you and I align so much on this idea. It's like you said, it's really like I think I always kind of envision like in order to be a great, if you want to get referrals in your door, you got to be the hometown hero,
Yeah, I
right?
think that's a great
You got to be the hometown hero. Like you're not gonna go drive 150 miles east to this random city and start getting generating referrals. Like you need to be the hometown hero.
yep.
And that circle of influence is very small. Like
Mhm.
like you said, like maybe 5 to 10 miles around your clinic.
Right.
So really that those are the only people for the most part that matter, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, what is it? I don't know, maybe 90% of the people who are in that area have lived there, have been living there for a long time,
Mhm.
and don't have any intention of moving for
Sure.
any time in the near future. So the only way to build relationships with them is to involved in the community. Now, there is an outer sphere of people who are moving into the community, who don't
Sure.
know you, who don't have relationships built. So those are some that's a smaller percentage of people who are going to do some like cold searches online for places in the community. And I think that's where the digital marketing really helps. I think it helps with number one. Um, here's the thing, like people get referred to you by their friends,
Mhm.
right? So if I say, hey, David, you really need to check out Adam at Southern Physical Therapy Clinic, you're going to go. So you're already building some trust with me, right? You're getting some social proof that Adam has it going on over there. And he's the guy, he's the hometown hero. Then when you go online, it confirms what
Right.
you already know about me.
Correct.
Right? And that's where you really help me because you confirm what the community has already established, right? Very rarely are you just going to like convert somebody organically online like that.
Yeah, we like to think of the classic model. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to think of the funnel or the sales pipeline that people go through, but they first have to know you. You know, they first have to have a need, right, for your
Mhm.
service. Then they have to know you exist, and then they have to like you, right? They have to. When I say like, I'd say they have a need, you fulfill that need, and then they have to trust that you can do the job for you,
Correct.
for them. And so, know, like, trust. And so for those people that don't know you at all, they're doing the geographic searches or they're searching for physical therapy or physical therapy near me. For people that have, they're in the middle of that process, they know you, they've got a referral from friend, family member, physician. Um, then they're going to go on your website and check you out, and they may Google you first, but they're going to Google your business name. And so when they see you pop up right away, you have multiple links to your business. There's one to Facebook, there's one to Yelp. They're all working well. They're all together. They see that you've got 200 5-star reviews. They're confirmed for me. Pop over to your website. Half the people are influenced by your website making a business choice, and then they read a story that is memorable, is logical, it's fast and easy to digest, and then the calls to action are right there for them. It's easy for them to take the next step, and so we just really like to understand, and that's where asking our people in our practice and other practices how they buy, and then looking at the data too. It's pretty easy to see what you need to be doing, and it doesn't have to cost you 4 figures a month to get it right. So, and you shouldn't be doing it, and you shouldn't be just doing it yourself and then forgetting it, because you've seen your webs, you have pretty big traffic. But if your average location is getting a couple hundred visitors a month, you have to remember you're a service business. People can't test drive you, they can't try you on, and they judge what they can't see about your service, about your PT service, based on what they can see. So when you got your act together, and there's plenty of consumer research around that in service businesses. So when you have your act together, there doesn't raise any doubts in their mind. It just becomes easier and easier path. As Google says, fast, easy, and friction free. to get to the next point, which is the phone call or the appointment request. And then you do your magic once they come in the door.
That's right.
And do a great job of providing exceptional customer service. But we even like to say before they even come in, send them a message through email. A lot of EMRs have the system. We have a system for it. Let them know what's going to happen before they even come in. Allow them to fill out their forms before they even come into the practice.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just think about how you'd like to be treated, now with the experience you'd like to have, and try to view it through their filters. And it's not that difficult to, I think, do things right. And you don't have to read 60 books. You just have to start taking some seriously, people say what massive imperfect action, but you just need to take some action rather than taking another course, rather than reading another book, rather than wondering what you should do. You got to dive in. But you've given them the blueprint probably a dozen times. I just gave them the blueprint. You just got to start doing it. So
just got to start doing it.
Yeah.
In case we're talking about E-Rehab, that can support you on the things that you don't have time, energy, or knowledge or bandwidth to do, and just do a few simple things really, really well. Get out in the community, build relationships, and that's your marketing plan. Like, you can build a great physical therapy clinic that way, better than most. You know what I mean?
I think that especially I'm so fond of going to referring physicians, and I went through everything everybody else went through when it comes to selling to doctors. Self-doubt, they know more than I do. They don't care. And the more and more I study it, the more and more I find those are all self-limiting beliefs.
100%. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, they're busier than we are. They do care. They're churning through, 2 to 3 more times patients every day, and they tend to just follow the same habits. They do have problems like we do. They don't know a thing about physical therapy even in 2024. And most PTs won't approach the doctors. And if they do, and I've asked multiple primary care doctors, because we don't care about the orthos anymore. They all have their own in-house PT. So we like to go to the GPs and the internists and establish those relationships, we know what's better for their patients than they do. Okay. Patient walks in the door with acute back pain, shoulder pain, knee pain. We know what's better for them than they do, but they are the gatekeepers. So if you educate them based on a current best research, and then you just repeat that process, staying in front of them, because most PTs go once and they never go back to the doctor because they're too busy. And but if you do that and you do it, 20 times to 20 different doctors, you're going to get a few.
Yeah, you'll land one.
Yeah. And that's if they're cold calls. If you have relationships with the doctors in the community, just tier those into the gold, silver, and bronze, the ones that feed you, the ones that send you a few, and the ones that don't send you any at all. I always say start with the silver ones and try to get them into gold. Never forget who's feeding you. Keep the gold people happy. And then if you have any time, reach out to the bronze level doctors. And people hate doing lunches. I'm not opposed to doing lunches every once in a while either. People will spend $5,000 to $10,000 on social media marketing, and they won't get anything out of it. I always counter them and I say, what if you took that same amount of money and you bought lunches for all those different doctors? Have you ever had the case, and you could answer this, I'd be curious, but have you ever had the case where you bought lunch for the doctor's office and they didn't at least throw you a bone?
Man, you are spitting fire right now, David.
Yeah.
Dude, good stuff. So the answer to that is no.
Right.
Here's the thing, if you're an owner, which everybody listening to this is, you have to learn over time. You learn how to sell your plan of care. You learn how to position yourself as somebody who knows what they're talking about. You learn charismatic traits about yourself. So you know how to build relationships, right? You know how to build relationships. And the thing that I love about you, David, is, I remember when we were doing some onboarding with your company, and I even told you, I really think I want to do some Google ads. I'm thinking about doing some Google ads for my new location. And you talked me out of it.
Yeah.
You told me, you know what, Adam, is there anything else you can do with that money? And I was like, which I was like, yeah, of course I could. But like, it's so awesome to hear you. Like, you weren't just after my money, after my sale. Like, you were genuinely interested in helping me build my practice.
Yeah,
Right. And,
sure.
like, it's like, you're so right. Like, people are they're on TikTok and they're on Instagram reels and they're seeing all these flashy, like, go high level and lead acquisition and all these fancy ads. And they think that that's the answer to all their problems. Like, they're just going to outsource having to actually build relationships in the community. And I
Right.
love that what you're saying. And like, I totally agree that maybe not never, but as it is today, you can't outsource that. And you can't replicate, you can't spend money on Facebook and replicate like building an authentic, genuine relationship with somebody in your community.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. And I would also say, and if we talk about ads, what I typically say with people in ads is I say, do it for 4 months. The first month is to set it up and optimize it, and then run your campaign for 3 months. Make sure that you're tracking the result all the way to the end. So you know if the patient calls and schedules an evaluation. And then if you really are good with your business math, you would go back and take that person that's scheduled, find out how many times they came in and how much money you made from them,
Mm-hmm.
and then go back and see how much you made versus how much you spent. And the other thing that people rarely do is they don't factor in the value of their time. You know, you're spending money on me, I'm spending money on you right now. They're spending
Yeah.
money on looking at ads, learning ads, or going through reports with somebody. All of that stuff matters. And so that's why I always like to talk about opportunity cost. Is this the best way you can spend your time and money on generating new business? And for some, I mean, you know, the funny thing about marketing is great results are usually single digits types of percentages of success. So it's not that digital advertising doesn't work for some people. It's not that Facebook or social funnels don't work for some people. But again, you have to have the time and the interest and the support around you to do it really well. And you have to have the endurance, because it's something that when you start any type of marketing strategy, you typically, or sales strategy, especially like going out to doctors or community, you kind of suck. And
Yeah,
then
you
you're going to
do.
get better and better and better. So one of the foundational concepts that we built our systems around is simplicity, because we don't want our owners to be doing the things so much that are required, but we just want the support step. We want everybody to be able to do it. So if I give you a 10-step process and 3 sites you need to log into and 4 other things you need to do in the process, and you got to do that every day, and then you have to check the results and go back and change things and work with us to change it, just it very quickly gets very inefficient. So we're all about simplicity, and simplicity may not be quite as good on a small scale. But if you send out 100,000 emails versus to a group, and then you say, well, I send out 100,000 emails and I've done some segmentation, you might get a slightly better result. But the effort and the money that takes to actually execute usually gobbles up all of your profits and your time in doing so. So that's why we've thought very carefully about what we do. And if people can just get these fundamentals in place, then they can go focus on equally or even more important things, and that's getting out of their office into their community and meeting people. And it's amazing when you meet people, because they're all
That's fun.
struggling. It's the same
Right.
thing. You know?
Right.
You got a
Right.
business, I got a business. How can we help each other out? And if somebody feels threatened by that, then maybe that's not the right person to talk to. But I guarantee you there's about 50 other people you could talk to in the community,
Mhm.
and nobody's gonna convert all 50 into referral sources. But if you get 5 or 7 of those people out of 50 that actually they have a need, you have some value, and then you're helping each other out, and it just kind of snowballs
That's
from
right.
there. So kind of
Yeah.
like hometown hero concept's a great idea.
hometown hero,
Yeah.
and consistency, right? So
Oh yeah, that's the cornerstone of
yeah,
marketing and sales is you got to be consistent.
quality, it's quality. Actually build a relationship. Don't just drop off flyers and leave.
Yeah.
Right. What's their name? What are they into? What do they like? What problems are they trying to solve? How can you help them? So it's quality, quantity,
Yeah.
not just one, a lot.
That's a consistency. Yeah.
And
Repetition.
consistency, quality, quantity, and consistency. If you can do those three things forever, it's impossible for you not to get a referral. It's like it's just
Yeah,
the way
it's pretty
the world.
tough. Yeah, I mean there are some situations, but they are the exception. I still know based versus the rule where you can't break into the narrow network. They have to refer in house.
Mhm,
Well,
mhm,
that can be a challenge. And I know, I mean, read many stories of people doing creative things to find solutions for that.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
but you know, for the typical community, still most communities, you know, you can get a little bit online, get a few referrals, get some repeat business because you're stay in touch with people. Um, have have the doctor send you some business and maybe even have your a simple system to get your patient to refer you a friend or family member. And those things are just cheap and the easy and you just got to do it. So
yeah, man, you're talking my language. Um, I do have another question for you. We talked a lot about ads, paid ads. We talked a little bit about paid ads,
mhm.
and but and I guess we both agree that for the majority of at least in network practice owners in
In
this
that,
country,
okay.
paid ads really isn't the first thing you should be looking at, right?
No, I wouldn't say it's the first thing you should be looking at all.
So
Great.
let's flip it. Like who really needs to be considering paid ads?
Um, Gosh, that's a good question. So I'd say who needs to consider paid ads?
This was a question I just thought of as we were talking. I don't have a
I
good
think
answer to
that
this. I've got
no,
some ideas.
and I so here would be my response to that. So I think that most people, after they've done, you know, fulfilled the top online priorities, um, can consider paid ads. But you have to be willing to test it and then be willing to move on. And then you also have to understand the math. And it depends on how you look at the math, the business math. So if, and you got to have a budget for it. And you're in many markets between 2020 and 2022, Meta and Google essentially doubled their click costs. Ads, the cost per click for just somebody searching for physical therapy, it's anywhere between, it varies greatly, $7 to $15 just for a click, you know. And so if you, one, you're not appropriate for paid ads. If you ever worry about people clicking on your ad that are a competition or somebody that's really has no interest in physical therapy but clicks on your ad and you're like, oh my gosh, I spent $15 every time they click. That, if that worries you, don't think about ads. It should never worry anybody because you just look at the end result though. I spent this much money in, I got this much money out. And so I say try for 4 months. Make sure that you have the right sensors in place to understand what's going on. Also recognize, and we've seen this across multiple ad campaigns, that there's some things you cannot track. There is some positive, you know, there's the old vague saying, what is that? Rising tides raise all ships. Just getting your name out in front of the community and people doing all these different searches, you may not be able to track that your ad contributed to them coming to your practice. So there's a little bit of that happens because we've seen people, they run ads, they do okay. They get 3 to 5 patients a month, but you know, I'd rather spend my money elsewhere. It's real money. And so they turn them off and then they don't get anything. And they don't get anything for not just 1 month, but a few months. And you know, it's not because of seasonality. So there is some branding that goes on with having your ads show up all the time that you can't measure, but you should be able to measure what's coming out the other side, and anybody can test those, and it varies widely in different markets. Some markets have great success, other markets not so much. Over time too, markets change, because you'll get a lot of people that go into Google ads over several year period of time, and then they figure it all out. They're like, I'm not getting anything. I just spoke with a guy, for example, that was and he's in Long Island. He was running ads and he was spending $2,500 a month on ads, couple locations. And then he turned it way down to, I think his budget was now $10 a day. So like $300 a month. He couldn't tell the difference about what was coming in. Well, he didn't have the right sensors in place to find out what was going on with his ads. And at the end of the day, it probably wasn't making much difference for him. So if you don't have those in place, you should run ads if you're willing to track. You should run ads if you're willing to budget. And again, you're looking at about $1,000 per location per month.
Minimum.
Yeah, minimum. And then you should test for a few months to see if it's worthwhile. And then you have to think about the business math. So if it costs you $900 to take a patient through a plan of care and you make $100, right? Which is about, well, let's say it's $990. You make a 10% margin, $999 in, $900 out for expenses, and you're spending $1,000 to get that patient, or not $1,000, excuse me, you're spending $150 or $200 to get that patient. You spent $200 to acquire, you only profit $90. One way to look at it is you're losing money. One way. The other way to look at it, though, is to think of it from the standpoint of, if you're not quite at capacity, but you are making a profit, meaning you're paying yourself and your staff, you're making a little bit of profit, then maybe you're willing to spend that $100 to get a little bit more money in, because it's not costing you incrementally anymore, right? You're already paid your staff.
Right.
You already paid your rent. There aren't any real variable costs associated with that patient coming in. So you might say, well, I'm willing to spend that money because I've already got all my costs covered. My staff can treat 2 or 3 more patient visits in a week, and so that's worth it. People often talk about lifetime value of the patient. I think that's a fuzzy number, though, because they'll say, well, if you got 10 patients from Google ads at whatever, $2,000, they'll say half of those patients are going to come back for free because of the lifetime value. But you have to, that equation looks like 10 years long.
Right. It's a long game.
Patient comes in one time, they may not come back for 2, 3, 5, 10 years down the line. And so while lifetime market value of the patient does matter, I think you got to realize what, over what period of time that patient comes back for free. So you got to think about those things too. And if you're willing to kind of dive in and you understand those things, give it a shot. But also always ask yourself the simple question that I learned a long time ago. If I'm spending X and I get Y, where can I get, if I spend X again, where can I get Y plus more? Where else? Where's a better place I may be able to spend that same amount of money and get a better return? And if you just think about that simply, you might think, hey, I'd rather spend, if I'm going to spend $1,000 on ads, I'd rather buy 5 lunches.
Right.
I know I'm going to get 5 patients. I may get 6, 7, or 8 patients out of that. I might build a relationship and push somebody in the corner of, or over the hump of really befriending them and, getting to know them even more. So I think all of those things matter.
Yeah. So I wrote down, as I kind of heard you talking, and I'm thinking about who are ads, right? Who should consider ads?
Yeah.
I wrote down if you're a cash clinic, cash-based practice, or an out-of-network practice where it's a little bit, the sales cycle is a little longer, right?
Well,
Maybe
yeah,
you,
so I guess my response to that would be, it really doesn't matter what kind of practice you are, because at the end, it's just about the finances. So,
correct,
but I don't know that the sales cycle is any different for a cash-based practice. Um, if somebody's in need of therapy and they have the option of cash-based practice or in-network practice, they're going to need the care right away in both cases, but it's not a longer sales cycle, but it might be a harder sale, is a good way to put
correct.
it.
You have to have a sales process.
Yeah, yeah. I think you have to have a better defined sales process, which is
Mhm.
a whole discussion on its
That's
own,
right.
right?
That's right.
There's plenty of training on those things, free training out there on
Yeah, there is.
how to how to learn how to sell patients into
Yeah, there is.
the plan of care.
I also put on here if you're an owner with not a lot of time, but you have a lot of money, then maybe
Yeah,
you could
they,
consider. Or
yeah.
like if you're somebody who's got like going after, maybe you're opening like two clinics at the same time,
Mhm.
you're going after like multiple opportunities at once and you don't have the marketing team to support it for whatever reason, you need some support digitally, then for in my mind at least, then I kind of think maybe paid ads could potentially benefit you.
Mhm.
And then I also wrote down like if you have like if you're going to use paid ads, then you definitely need to have some type of way of managing them and not just like outsourcing them. Like you said, like spending the time actually tracking them and making sure that your money's being spent well.
Yeah, and I think of it from the CEO standpoint, or the owner standpoint. It's like, I run the ads, I have the proper sensors in place to measure the results. Um, do I get the report, and can I understand that report, so that I know if I'm making a profit or not? And so I don't think it takes too much to manage it if you find the right company to manage them
Mhm.
with. Um, but it's more to one of your other points. You just have to have some endurance um, with this stuff, because uh, there's just not, you're not going to get 40 patients if you're running ads. You'd have to cover a huge geography, and have a huge budget, and you know, people aren't going to drive that far either.
Right.
It's just for a traditional orthopedic problem. If you have a niche service, like we do, we treat cardio and pulmonary patients, and we see a lot of these uh, dysautonomia patients and stuff. We have the universities calling us, because, and it's not me, it has nothing to do with me, it's my great friend Paul. He's just so good at what he does. He's better than anybody else. So he's niched himself, and he's so darn good, that he's a rare resource. And if you can do something like that, I mean, darn near like a blue ocean, where he's
Right.
created his own market. He's created his own type of thing. He's not competing with anybody else. He's not just better, he's new and different, because he's applying physical therapy and exercise physiology principles and his knowledge, uh, that no other cardiac rehab clinic is doing, no other pulmonary clinic is doing. Has the latest and greatest technology. And that's more of a discussion about niche practices and stuff. But you don't need ads in that case.
Hmm.
You're going to be in greater demand,
Right.
the supply typically. But I think there are plenty of reasons why you might want to do some ads, but you just have to know if it's worth your time and money, because nowadays you don't have extra money
Right.
or time to waste. So
So you're the CEO and owner of E-Rehab.
uh, John, my
Okay.
business partner, John. Yeah.
What do you see coming down the pipe with on the digital marketing space? Like, what's the future look like for digital marketing? Is it more of the same, or do you see anything exciting coming down, like latest technologies or new innovations or
Yeah.
strategies that
Yeah.
that kind of that you have your eye on into the future?
Well, I'd say, I would definitely say it's going to be a lot of more of the same
Mhm.
for the vast majority. Um, a lot of people like to look for kind of different and new things, but there's for a vast majority, it's going to be more of the same. Um, I think AI is an important part of things, but AI is just, we like to think of it as a first draft tool.
Right.
It's a good tool to create. I big fans of video, and I'm not talking about uh, influencer stuff where you post 20 or 10 videos a week, kind of thing. That's a whole different business model. But we do like video. I mean, have a video welcoming people to the practice. Let them see who you are. Let communicate that to them, not the importance of stretching a calf or hamstring, but how about the importance of seeing a physical therapist, and in particular your practice, versus a chiropractor, or um, expensive tests or surgery or anything of that nature. So that's understanding your value and communicating your value proposition to people that are comparison shopping. And so video, I think, is important, and you can facilitate a lot of that through the use of AI. Google's still going to be relevant for a long time.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
their AI was a complete mess. Their new Gemini was a complete mess, but that will get better. And I think there's, as far as you know, we're positioned, we serve typically the 1 to 4 location private practice. Um, Not a lot of, we have some few of the bigger chains, but we serve the small mom and pop practices for all the reasons we talked about previously. And who's in need of care? Let's step outside of cutting edge technology and just think about the market. That's what's most important. What's going on in the marketplace? And it's baby boomers, even Gen Xers. They're the ones that are using physical therapy more than ever. How do they use digital tools
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
find a physical therapy practice, choose a physical therapy practice, work with a physical therapy practice? I mean, um, I think some of the greatest threats that private practice faces, people will say, the corporate roll-ups, decreased payment. I think it's substitutes, and insurance companies and stuff providing uh, digital tools, online tools for self-care, so they don't even need physical therapy. That would be
Hmm.
something I'd think, well, how can I compete against that?
Right.
Um, and there are all kinds of ways you can message about the value of physical therapy, the hands-on stuff, the face-to-face stuff. I
Mhm.
mean, I was actually on the minority of people as we were going through the pandemic that thought telehealth was great. It didn't equate to me as a, board certified, fellowship trained manual therapist. Um, I just touched people, and I watched people in the 3-dimensional space. Not that there isn't value in some of that stuff, but I thought, this is just a way for insurance companies to pay us less money.
Right.
We really won't deliver the real value to patients if we can't see them, touch them, have a verbal and nonverbal communication, and get to know these patients and what their true goals and aspirations are, which happens over time. And so I think there's so much value that we still offer in that space, but you have to be different, and you don't have to necessarily be different in the sense of um, having new programs or expensive modalities, but how about just differentiate on being the best, and going back
Hmm.
to the beginning of this podcast, and probably a dozen other you guys have done, and say, how can I be the best in the community, the hometown
Right.
hero, instead of just another orthopedic physical therapy practice? It's kind of hard to compete if you aren't a clinically excellent therapist. It's kind of hard to compete if you don't have any reputation in town. you know then it comes down, you truly are a commodity. How
Hmm.
close are you, how much do you cost? you
That's
know
it.
so
Hmm.
yeah, you got to be different.
Man, I really appreciate it. I know a lot of people know who you are and what you do, but tell, like, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you and learn a little bit more about your services and see if you might be able to help support them with their marketing, what would they need to do? How would they get in touch with you?
Yeah, it's super easy. You can go to e-rehab.com. There's a big orange button. You can schedule some time on my calendar. There's phone number you could call. You can certainly just send me an email to dave@e-rehab.com. And I love to connect. I mean, just like you, I just have a passion for helping the small private practice owner kind of get the low hanging fruit, get the important things right. And when you get those important things right, uh, and you just focus on the details of those things first, then oftentimes you're not left wondering what am I missing? What am I doing wrong? What's the next bright and shiny object or silver
Right.
that's going to save me? And those things don't exist.
They
It's
don't.
usually fundamentals, and getting the fundamentals right, and understanding how to run your business, which is what you teach. And if you do those things right, there's still a market out for us, and there will continue to be.
Sounds great, David. Man, I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wealth of knowledge and love your approach to marketing. And yeah, man, thank you for your time. We should definitely do this again sometime.
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you, Adam.
All right, David. Have a good one, buddy.
You too. Be well.
Bye.
Bye.